And I think when Sye asks these questions, it's setting a person up for a very quick straw man or black and white. Like, now I got you. Now how do you answer this one? Well, if I asked you the same questions, you would either be engaging in circular reasoning, or you can't explain the answer that you gave me.
Is all circular reasoning bad?
No.
So what's the problem in engaging in circular reasoning?
It's not bad, but it can kill a discussion. It makes it ends the discussion. It doesn't mean it's bad.
Well, some discussions need to be ended.
You want a discussion or not?
Some discussions need to be
ended right now.
Some discussions need to be ended. Like, for example, is there a God?
I agree.
And the answer is, well, yeah.
I agree. That
Let me ask you this question,
need to be ended. So my question here for you is, do you want a discussion or not?
Is it a valid argument, Josh, to say God exists because he exists?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it a valid argument to say God exists because he exists?
God exists what?
Because he exists. Is that a valid argument?
It's a valid argument for a person who doesn't want a better one, yeah.
Okay, so is it a valid argument to say, I sense that my senses are valid?
For a person that doesn't want a better one, yes.
So that is your argument, I sense that my senses are valid? You don't see a problem with that?
No, because, I'll tell you why. Because every person I meet, every person I do business with, every person I talk to lives at least to that standard. And if they
how do you know that? You trust your senses before you even come to that decision. You trust your senses to know that other people are telling you these things. You trust your senses before you even come to the conclusion that your senses are valid. On what basis do you do that?
On what basis do I trust my senses?
Because in order to gather information, you just admitted that it comes via your senses. So you
okay,
have to
I'll
trust your senses to know that other people are telling you.
With a very simple question.
Pardon me?
How do I trust my senses, or why can I trust my senses?
On what basis do you trust them?
I'll answer you. If I don't assume that my senses are reliable, I'm not going to talk to you. So if you want to ask me, how do I trust my senses are valid? That's like going out on the street and shooting somebody, and when the police come, you ask, what gives you the authority to police me? Now, if you want to deny that the police have authority, you want to deny that the law exists, go ahead and don't waste time arguing that. Now, if you want to say that my senses are not reliable or I shouldn't trust my senses...
I'm not saying that. I'm asking you on what basis you trust them.
It's assumed. It's a tautological or circular...
So
I will
assume
admit
that God exists.
That is a circular assumption in order to have any discussion.
Right.
So we assume God exists.
You can assume that all you want, and I'm not saying that...
And is it valid?
Is it valid? Not to me, but if you want to believe that, I'm not going to argue with you. It's like saying, well, basically, I think Gene and Sye, I think you guys pretty much sealed it up from the beginning that basically all you're saying is this discussion isn't going anywhere because you will not be open to the idea that you can be wrong. So the discussion is over already. It's like somebody who says, I believe murder is right, and nothing is going to convince me. If somebody said that, you're not going to waste a minute arguing with them, and that's basically what you said about your faith. And I'm not going to argue with you one minute.
But don't we have trust in? Let's say, for example, somebody says that murder is right, and there's an audience, and you have an opportunity to explain in front of an audience that murder is not right; it's in fact wrong. Don't we trust that the majority of human beings are going to be able to reason through the material, the arguments, and walk away with the right understanding or the right conclusions?
Yes, and that's pretty much the only reason I would do this, even though I already heard you seal it up. And my answer is, I think I repeated this already, is that atheists trust our senses. And if you're going to ask, why do you trust your senses, then really this question isn't going anywhere. If you want to trust our senses or not. If you don't want to trust our senses, then don't.
Right.
So be my guest. But if you do, then let's talk about it.
But if we were to say something like, the Bible is the presupposition for epistemic proof, wouldn't that have to be involved in the discussion?
Not if I don't want to be involved in it.
Okay, so what if we said this? We believe the Bible. It's our primary assumption, right? It's our presupposition that God exists. And if you don't believe that, then we can't have a conversation.
I agree. I agree.
That wouldn't be very loving of us as Christians, though, would it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Well, why do I care whether you're loving? You can do whatever you want.
Okay. Well, that moves us on to our next point. I think it's time to shift gears here.
Cool.
Why do you care if? Why does Josh care if we're loving? You mentioned in your email. Let me just pull it up here real quick. For some reason, I closed that browser window.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the email here at the bottom, human dignity. Atheists are very much for human dignity, hence the term humanism. It's theists who want to degrade human dignity by dignifying an imaginary God and bow down to an invisible hocus pocus. That's not signifying human dignity. Oh, don't like this straw man? Well, I'm up for a live discussion if you are. Think for a minute. What else other than human dignity do we think about when talking about social contracts? My question is, what do you mean by social contracts?
A lot of things. I mean, customs, trust, not violating laws, not cussing at other people, smiling, shaking hands. I mean,
are these written?
That's not written
okay.
in law is in more or less a form of social contract.
Okay, are these social contracts recorded somewhere?
No, is it written in a book? Maybe. But do we follow it because it's written in a book? No.
So why do we follow it?
We follow it because that's the only way society gets along. If you don't want to get along with society, be my guest.
Be my guest?
Yeah.
That's a cavalier attitude, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
Okay. That's a cavalier attitude.
So if I don't want to get along with society, am I a bad person?
Why do you care if people think you're a bad person if you don't want to get along with them?
No, I'm asking from your viewpoint. Am I?
Not always, no. Not
okay.
always. There are bad societies you don't want to get along with. There are good societies you do want to get along with.
Is it right for society to prosper?
Is it right for society to prosper?
Yes.
No, not always. I mean, these are very broad questions that you can't just throw at me. I'm not going to give you a very straight...
Is human dignity right?
Is human dignity right? As long as I'm a human, I'll say yes.
Okay, how do you know this?
I know this because I'm a selfish asshole that thinks that I deserve dignity, and I want all my fellow human beings to deserve the same.
That's the best argument you've used all night.
we thank you for your honesty, Josh.
Yeah.
If somebody else were to say that human dignity, that he doesn't care about it, who's right? You or that person?
Well, okay, that's a good question, and I'm going to answer you. We only have about 15 minutes for my first promised hour, but I'll try to make it so that we can have a reasonable discussion here. But if somebody disagreed with me, how would we settle this? Well, you're going to. I know you want to tell me that the Bible has an ultimate authority, therefore humans are not to argue. Now I respect that, even though I disagree. But throughout history, it doesn't matter who has the Bible, who believes in the right religion. It's who has the bigger fist and who has the more guns. It doesn't matter who's right. It matters who has the greater might. I know this sounds very sad, but throughout history, it's been proven that the might make the right.
So you're not telling me that human dignity is right. You're just telling me that you happen to value human dignity, but it's not right.
Objectively, universally.
Objectively, universally, I can't say that unless I knew everything in the universe, could I?
Right. So we need the one who knows everything in the universe to tell us so. That's what we're saying.
I can see that standard, even though I disagree, because anybody who isn't that omniscient being will say that, and we're always going to ask, well, how do you know that? So you can say that, but I don't think we can settle that from our human senses and our human understanding.
So this goes back to our presuppositions that we presuppose.
That's your presupposition, and I would not ever agree to that presupposition.
Right, I understand that, but we're saying it comports with reality, that the triune God of the universe becomes the foundation for accounting for all these things. We can account for morality, we can account for logic, we can account for the one and the many.
Well, hold on. You can account for it means nothing. It just means you have a way to justify it to yourself.
Yes.
That doesn't make it. That
and
doesn't
you
make
don't.
It right or
and
wrong.
You don't.
So if you want something better, it seems to me that you would believe what we believe.
No.
Because you did ask for something better.
You asked for something better. Okay, let's move on
I don't need it. I don't want it. But the point
you don't
here
want
is
it.
that
That's honest. I appreciate that.
And the Bible says that you don't want it either. Did you know that?
I don't know it directly, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, the Bible says that no one seeks after God in Romans chapter 3, verse 10. The last sentence here of your post, you put, don't be stupid enough to think that atheists believe humans are no different than animals. So it was my assumption, and maybe I'm wrong. See, I'm open to being wrong on certain things.
Thank you.
I'm just not open to being wrong on the existence of the triune God who's revealed himself in the person of Christ.
Okay, that's fine.
But going back to your comment here, so you personally believe that humans are different than animals? Because I assume that atheists believe that humans...
That's not... We are not entirely one way or the other, so maybe if you give me a more specific question...
Okay, are human beings animals?
In many respects, yes.
In which respects are they not?
Yeah.
We are smarter than animals.
So, animal or non-animal is based on intelligence?
In human terms, yes, absolutely.
So what about the retard, if you were referring to...
Yeah.
Retards are no better than animals.
Whoa. So, a human being, a little boy that has Down syndrome is no better than a dog.
Let's talk about this. I can ask a dog to fetch a newspaper for me. Can I ask this retarded kid to do that for me?
You can. I'm not sure if he'll understand what you're saying.
Well, if he can't do it for me, can I say that a dog is more useful for me than this retarded kid?
Okay, but the question wasn't which person is more useful or which being is more useful. The question is there a distinction between human beings and animals? You say there is, and that distinction is based on intelligence.
Intelligence and usefulness from the question I just posed, that there are very good respects where you can say yes and very good respects where you can say no.
Let me ask you this, Josh. Does human dignity come from intelligence? The level of intelligence, is that how much dignity we should afford that animal, depending on how much intelligence?
You mean, should we reward people or things based on intelligence?
We're talking about human dignity, and you're talking about a differentiation in intelligence. I'm just asking, does our proportion of dignity allotted to us, is that respective of our intelligence?
Is it or should it?
Oh, is it? Or should it be? Well, whatever. I mean, you're telling us...
See, that's a very different question. That's a very different question to ask, is it or should it be?
Okay, should it be? Should
it be?
Yeah.
Should our human dignity be proportional to our intelligence?
Yes.
I don't see why not.
Okay, so, for instance, a cow who might be more intelligent than a retarded person, I mean, we grind them up and put them on our store shelves. Should we do that with people who are intellectually challenged as well?
Would it be wrong just to kill them? I mean, should we kill retarded kids? Should we
kill animals? Should we kill ants? I mean, you ask these questions to make me say something like, yeah, we should kill.
Well, see, once again, the Christian says, yeah, we can kill ants. Yes, we can kill animals. No, we can't kill the 5-year-old retarded boy.
Because he's made in the image of God.
But I want to know what Josh says.
You don't spend every minute of your life killing ants just because it's okay.
So sometimes it's okay.
It's always okay to kill ants for me.
No, sometimes okay. Sometimes to kill humans who are not meeting that bar of intelligence. I don't know where you draw the line, where the drop-off mark is, but...
Well, just because I can't draw the line doesn't mean there's not a line.
Right, okay, that's fair enough. I'm saying, but you're saying in some circumstances, because a human intellectually doesn't have the capacity to reason, therefore...
I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. If I answer you with an example, are you gonna let me go on this question?
No.
No, okay, then I'm not going to waste time to answer your question.
And let me tell you why I'm not going to let you go. Are you a white supremacist?
No.
Okay. Do you realize that the theory that you're setting forth is no different than the theory of the Third Reich? That they said, we will determine...
Yes, I understand that, and I'm not going to take guilt by association. I don't believe that racism and hatred and violence is always wrong.
You don't believe it's always wrong?
I don't believe it's always wrong. I don't believe it's always right.
So sometimes racism can be justified?
Yes.
Wow. Sometimes...
Wow, you're like, wow, I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that, because you just got done telling us you believe in human dignity.
I do.
I know what to say to that. I say to that, thanks for the admission, Josh, because you're showing us what your worldview amounts to, and I appreciate
no.
that honest admission.
No.
And I say thanks to Jesus for...
I don't represent atheists.
Amen.
And so I don't think it's very fair for you to take my worldview and say that all atheists will do that. I think that's a very common...
But
actually, Josh, most atheists wouldn't. We interview atheists all the time, and they would cringe at the thought of talking about sometimes it's morally okay to kill a 5-year-old retarded boy. Sometimes it's morally okay to be racist.
So did I pass your consistency test?
No.